welcome to the Austin members that are joining us today. We're thrilled to have all of you guys and gals on. So for EO Houston, if you're seeing some new faces, welcome to EO Austin. Okay, a little bit about Rich. Having spoken in over 30 countries on 6 continents, rock and roadie turned entrepreneur Richard Mulholland knows firsthand the impact that memorable presentations can make. That's why he works with executives and speakers around the world, helping them deliver unforgettable presentations that activate audiences and generate income. He is the founder of presentation powerhouse Missing Link, as well as the co-founder of Two Tanks Human Rights in the Sales Department. He has written 3 books, Legicide, Boredom Slayer, and Storyteller, and was voted top 40 under 40 and top 300 South Africans to take to lunch. Rich is a member of EO Cape Town and former president of EO Johannesburg. Mostly though, he's a father, husband, son, brother, and uncle. Rich, take it away.
Thank you, Rebecca. Hello, everybody. It's wonderful to be here with you. Thank you, Griff. I appreciate it. And Catherine, good job, the 2 of you, the rest of you. You know, well, that's lovely to be here. It really is a privilege to be here. It's amazing. I'm very sad when I hear that top 40 under 40, because of course that was a while ago. I always do mention that top 300 South Africans to take to lunch in the hope that one day somebody will invite me to lunch. Still waiting, but you know, it'll happen. I'm convinced of it. But today I want to share with you, because I kind of feel that what a lot of people think is a bug has become a feature, and that is this presenting online. I actually think there's something to be said. I've spoken in Houston once, I've spoken in Austin twice, and as much as I love it, like it's just an incredible place to visit, it's also nice that I get to have lunch with my wife. So that's been a huge, big upgrade for me this year, as I've had more lunches with my wife. I'm actually surprised she still likes me, but we've made it through. I actually think she likes me more, which is incredible. I think she just wants me to travel a little bit though, because to get out the house. But I think this presenting online thing has been an upgrade in every single way, or at least for me, it's been an upgrade in so many ways. And one of the most important things is it's actually made my sales cycle dramatically shorter. So instead of me waiting to do a sales meeting and sales presentations with customers, when I got up there and into their boardrooms, I'm now able to get shorter periods of time, get information across quicker, and get in people's diary faster. So what I wanted to share with you today is essentially a few things around that, and a presentation entitled How to Present Online Like a Pro. Now, as I said to some of you earlier, and some of you will have this dialed in, I need you to do me a favor. You're going to go where it says Richard is sharing his screen, or Rich is sharing screen, and there's a wee drop down there. That wee drop down, you're going to select that drop down for me, and you're going to choose side by side mode. Then I'm now going to be over on one side, and then my slide is going to be big over the other side. We cannot have that, because when you're presenting, your slide is not the presentation, you are. This is what Microsoft Teams does badly for me, is it delegates or it relegates the speaker to be a small little corner. So now you're going to drag that bar and you're going to drag the slider so that I'm about half your screen and the slide is about half the screen. Have you done that? Are we cool? Okay, great. Now, the next thing I want to say to you is from now on, every single time you present, if you're sharing information and you're presenting to somebody, the first thing you're going to do when you share your screen is you're going to make sure they do that. Because otherwise what they're seeing is they're seeing this big ass screen with your slides on it, and they're seeing itty bitty little you. And for the most part, you are the presentation. Now, what we're going to do now, I want to kick off because I imagine many of you have been to many online events and presentations like this. And I guess I want to ask you if we can have a little bit of a poll. So Jennifer's going to pop up a poll for you. If you wouldn't mind just popping up there and making a bit of a choice. Thank you so much. And you can go and have a look. So you've got better, worse, whatevs. Let's have a look at this. I just want to see what you feel about them, better, worse, whatever. Either way, cool, 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 cool. Getting there, 80% of you have voted. We're nearly there. We're nearly there. Somebody's already showed up and gone to the toilet. Totally understand. I'd have done that too. You probably work under the premise that the first 5 minutes, we're not really got into it yet, and you would be right. So here we go. We've got 83% votes. I think that's pretty cool. Jennifer, you're welcome to share the results now. There we go. So you can have a look through. So what have we got? We've got 50% are think it's well, 43% think it's better, 21% think they're worse, and 36% are kind of indifferent. So look what we have here. We have a realization that the majority of us understand that this is in some way an improvement. And if that is the case, then this is here to stay. We need to master this art. And it's crazy because the first rule of how to present online like a pro is to learn not to suck at in-person presenting. Because I will tell you this, it is not easier. Staring at this tiny little white light, because I can, you know, if I look at you, if you're on my big monitor here, if I start looking at each and every one of you and your faces, then I spend my time not looking at where you actually are, because you are in there. So you got to get used to talking to a tiny little white light by the name of Logitech and to deliver a message, and you got to figure out how to get that dialed in. Now, the reason this is important, and I think one of the reasons it is a good thing, and I'm going to stop the sharing the results here. One of the reasons it's a good thing for me is that all of a sudden you have been promoted as a presenter. Why? Because there's nowhere else to hide, right? In the old presentations or conferences in the past, you would go to a big company conference and there would be like 20 presentations. And if they were terrible, that's okay, because there was you know, they brought in this big singer, or there was a fantastic bar, an evening function, everybody had a great time. It was, you know, the conference was made up of a whole bunch of elements. But now there's nothing else, there's just us. If I am terrible today, if you absolutely cannot stand the presentation I deliver, that is it. This is a terrible event. There's nothing else to it. You're going to leave this call when I finish speaking. We're going to do some questions, and then you're gone. So this means that as a speaker, you're more important. You have a bigger role to play. And as a presenter, you have a higher order task. But it's a problem because everybody has webinar fatigue. But I actually want to call bullshit on that a little bit, because I'm not sure people have webinar fatigue as such. I think what they have is crap webinar fatigue. Nobody is sick of smart people delivering good information. What they're sick of is people delivering bad information in a bad way. And the reason that has happened in my mind is like just because of the barrier to entry. Now, I've heard this thing about barriers to about, you know, crap webinars or webinar fatigue throughout my entire career, because I own a presentation business, and people also have something else to blame for bad presentations, just like they blame us for bad webinars. And of course that tool would be PowerPoint. People talk about death by PowerPoint all the time. Well, I want to kind of spoiler alert here. PowerPoint never did anything to you. PowerPoint's not bad. You are bad. Blaming PowerPoint for a bad presentation is like blaming a pan for a bad meal. It's not, PowerPoint's not crap, you're crap, right? And you cannot, I'm using PowerPoint right now. It is a perfectly efficient tool for delivering a presentation. But if you throw everything at it, it becomes bad very quickly. And in fact, if you've been to conferences like TED, I've been lucky enough to be at 5 times to TED. That's me sitting right there. One of them, and I mean main TED, not just TEDx. I was actually lucky enough to train the TED Fellows program on behalf of TED globally, which was a great privilege. But what makes a difference there is that people get fatigue, but not the way you think about it. You're sitting, if any of you have ever been to TED, I don't know if you have. In fact, have any of you ever been to a TEDx? Would you mind telling me in the chat, maybe a yes or a no? Now, you're welcome just to say if you have been, or if any of you have ever been to the main stage of TED, it would be amazing to let me know in the chat there as well. I'd love to see. Who has been to a TED there? No, no, no. Definitely something to do. Another one that you can actually check out is PopTech, P-O-P-T-E-C-H. A little bit more affordable, a little bit more intimate. The knowledge is incredible. It's in Camden in Maine, in New England, in October. No, yes, cool. Intend to go, amazing, definitely worthwhile doing. Now, if you go to a conference like TED, there are 70 speakers in 5 days. So you would think, wow, I'm gonna be fatigued, but actually you're not. Your brain is a little bit fried, but not because you're bored, and it's because you're overflowing with like so much stuff. You actually get what they refer to it as a TED hangover, that like after you leave, you're just trying to deal with all the new things going on in your brain and trying to parse all this information. So it's a different kind of fatigue, not like I am bored shitless. And I'm sorry, I know I've now said shit twice, but look around, like none of you died. You'll all be okay. That's as bad as it gets. Like if you can't handle this, I don't know how you watch Netflix, because they say much worse things than that on there. So I promise you, you will make it through the next 40 odd minutes. You'll be fine. Now, the reason TED does so well is because the barrier to entry is so high. It's not easy to be asked to speak at TED. I was lucky enough to be the first South African ever to speak on the main stage of TED. My talk was 3 minutes and my slides broke behind me. It was horrific. But I've still never watched the whole thing from start to finish. It is honestly the most horrific, embarrassing moments of my life. But still, the reason TED is so good is because the barrier to entry is so high. The reason webinars are not the same is because the barrier to entry is so low. If you want to throw an online event, you can do it. You post on your LinkedIn, hey, I'm doing a webinar, come and join it. I'm this expert. And what happens? What happened at the beginning of lockdown? You just had a whole bunch of people showing up, two talking heads, talking to each other, just interviewing each other, asking questions on a topic. And let me tell you this, I hate panel, I mean, I don't know if anybody else agrees with me here. You're welcome to say in the chat. Panel-driven presentations, because the burden of preparation for the speaker is zero. You just show up and you answer questions. The burden of preparation goes from the speaker to the moderator, and then the presentation is only as good as the moderator's knowledge. And what's been happening in all these online webinars is these people are just inviting guest after guest and asking boring ass questions. It was killing me. Anyway, here's the reason though why this is important though, because even though the barrier to entry is low and people are putting more events on, your access to audience has never been greater. And it's something I realized early. Wait a minute, as a public speaker, my access to amplify my authority around the world through stages has never been better. Last year, I spoke in 26 countries, but I had to get on a plane and fly to those countries. This year, I've spoken in easily as many, but I did it from my living room. Like I was at home having lunch with my wife later on. Like it's amazing, it's an upgrade. So each and every one of you has access to audience that you're not using. You have an opportunity to carve out your area of authority and to level up. But have you done it? Have you used the fact that you don't have to just be doing presentations to companies close to you in Houston or Austin? You could be doing them around the world. Like, have you properly realized that the handcuffs of geography have been broken? Because if you haven't, you should. And you should realize, those of you who have an opinion and an idea, you're one keynote talk away from one online talk away from really accelerating the growth of your authority. And people often say to me, yeah, but I'm just this person with an idea. But like, who was Brené Brown and who was Simon Sinek before that talk? Like nobody. They were just they were nobody. And then they did the talk and they were everything. So I believe we're one talk away from people discovering who we are. And I think you should decide that's you. I found that like I was just able to speak at more and more places this year than I ever had before. This one event in the top corner there, that Sales Guru one, 7,000 people we spoke at. We got there in 10 days of planning. I actually stood over there just by my, I've got my favorite chair there, and I was on the phone to the owner of Sales Guru. We set up the event. 10 days later, we had 7,000 people. I spoke for 30 minutes. That is 3,500 hours of human attention that were paid to me to deliver a message around the topic that I love, which is speaking and presenting and how you can use your voice to grow your authority. Every salesperson of worth in our country was jumping onto this event and we were sharing with them tips. This was the best thing that happened to my business, and it should still be for you. So I want to share with you 5 online presenter pro tips that I think will change the way your relationship with presenting, and I hope will make you start loving it as much as I have. So tip number 1 is this. You've got to give your audience permission to engage. You've got to let your audience know that they can chat to you. And that's why I've been asking you to fill things in the chat. Because think about it this way, right? Your audience didn't know. In the past, I want you to think about the old legacy audience. You as an audience have been trained how to think. You go in and you sit down and you are a passive observer. But actually now you don't have to be anymore. I want you to engage with me. That's why, boom, I opened up with a poll. I wanted your opinion. I've asked your questions. I've forced you to type because I want to give you permission to engage with me. I want you to know that if you have a question at any point during this presentation, you can drop it in the chat and tell me. If you disagree with something I've said, you can show me. You can put it in there. This levels up presentation so much. We were delivering a presentation, a talk. It's an event called Heavy Chef. I've spoken at a number of times in person, but I was speaking at this event online and we were getting these kind of comments. And let me actually just focus this for you a little bit here. Let's just see. So look at some of these comments. I've been more engaged in this crowdcast sessions compared to any platform over the past few weeks. Thank you for a great event. It's almost more engaging having the events on this platform. We get to chat to the crowd throughout. Thank you for an awesome event. Thanks, Fred. Good to see all these familiar faces. Now, here's the amazing thing, is this event normally has 50 people in it. But this was the first one they did online, and it has 146 people in it. And if you go to the page, the remote workers on Crowdcast, I think they've now had 450 people have watched it after the fact. Your audience is enjoying engaging more because they no longer feel like they're just sitting there doing nothing. They now feel like they have a voice, and you do have a voice when you go to online events. But you as a speaker, you've got to give your audience permission to engage that way. Then what you have to do is you have to win them back. And let me explain to you the problem here. This is pro tip number 2. You got to figure out how to win them back. Now, I'm going to show you an image in this next slide you're going to see coming up, and it's going to explain to you one of the biggest problems that I think online eventing has. Any guesses on what it is? What specific platforms are working for EO companies for these events? Travis, what I will say is I have found Crowdcast to be phenomenal. I don't know if any of you have tried this. We've been using this a lot. There's a few things I like about it. I think the dark mode is great. And I like the way that the chat is constantly visible at the side. And then the other thing is, if I said something that you liked on Crowdcast, let's say you like this comment that I just said now, you can click the clip media button and it will go back 30 seconds and it will save you a little video clip of the 30 seconds that I'd said before that you can save. Mind blowing. That, by the way, in fact, let me just go back to here. Now you can see in the bottom corner, in the bottom left of that slide, clip moment. That's that. The way they've laid it out and the way the integration with the chat is just seems to work really, really, really well. I've been blown away by that. It's been a platform I've used well. And then I want to just share one that I shared earlier with everybody that we're playing with more and more. And that is this one here. Now, this illustrates the problem that I was talking about on the next slide, and that is this thing here, is you cannot close the doors at the back of the room. Now, I'm going to ask, well, in fact, I think I don't even have to. I'm going to ask Jennifer if she wouldn't mind just popping up the second poll for me, please. Just say it's HTTP:/. You can fill out that poll for a second for me. There's the link to Crowdcast. Okay. So honesty is the best policy. You may have popped out into another tab once or twice. I like to see it. Thank you for admitting that. I've popped out once or twice to another tab, and I'm the one delivering the presentation. So if I can't stay on, then shame, you guys shouldn't have a chance. And there, wow, I don't know what's just happened with my lighting. That's gone absolutely crazy in my camera. Let me see if I can get that sorted out. For you. I am no idea. And I'm going to go to my. Okay, cool. Now we can maybe just share those results as well. We'll see if I can sort out why I've gone pink all of a sudden. How long have I been pink for? I already just noticed it now, but I think it's beautiful. I mean, I think it's lovely. It's a good look, but. Okay, so have a look there. So what you've got is basically 50% of you have left the room and when you're presenting. So this is an important mindset to understand when it comes to, let me just see black and white, I can do that, go back to normal, and to see custom. I don't know. Okay, well, let me, we'll see this, and I'm gonna maybe just pop this out quickly, stop sharing, come back here, see what's going on, choose video filter, none. No, it's really just my lighting. Okay, we're gonna stick with this nice look. I think it's, as I said, it's beautiful. It's got ambience. It's got all of these things going on for it, so that's cool. So let's get back into it. Here's the problem. You can't close the door at the back of the room. This poses certain problems for a presentation, and it makes you realize that you've got to reframe how you see what your job is. Because actually, if you're in a normal event and people are watching and listening 100% of the time, that's fine. But actually, if we're doing it the way that we're doing it now, that means that only 30% of the time you're watching and listening. Therefore, the rest of this time, I may as well be a podcast. So you're going away, you're listening to me, and I'm a podcast, and that's fine. but it's only fine if you understand that that you're not doing anything else. Because the moment you start doing anything else, if you go and check your email or go and do anything that isn't just paying attention, if you're like jogging, that would be okay. If you're making a cup of coffee, that's fine. But if you're doing some other intellectual work, then I've just become Charlie Brown's school teacher, like walk, 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 walk. You're not even paying attention. So what does this say? Well, if there's only one thing you take away from this entire presentation, it is the line that is on the next slide. It is the most important thing I need you to understand, because the rules of presenting have changed. We used to say to our people and our speakers that we're training that they had to learn to hold an audience's attention. That ship has sailed, is not an option anymore. Now you have to become a master at interrupting your audience's distraction. You've got to find a way to win them back. Right? You've got to assume that you have lost your audience at all times and then find a way to win them back. Find a way to make them turn on, be interested enough to come back into this room and to carry on going with you and listen again. Now, I want to share with you on the next slide a couple of little magic words that you can utilize to bring an audience back. You can get ready to take a screenshot, because this is presentation gold. Honestly, these phrases are what you need. I'm almost embarrassed to tell you though, because they're so easy, and that is this. The magic words are, as you can see here, as this slide illustrates. I know I'm embarrassed because it doesn't seem like it's that clever. That will get your audience back, because people have intellectual FOMO. If you talk about something about to appear on a slide, people come back in from their email client to have a look. So what does this mean? Well, this is now a device that's forced another thing that you should have been doing already, and that is this idea. The more slides with less will always be better than less slides with more. And part of the reason for that is that, one, every single slide has just one job. You should never try and do two things with one slide, but it's more important now as well, because some people are watching your presentation on their phone, and this screen is not an easy way to read the information that you see there. So we've got to change our relationship with our slides. Now on that, on our slides, well, then we need to understand that the way we share our screens and the way we act around sharing screens and sharing slides, that's got to change as well. I don't know if any of you have been and seen this situation, you know, where you have the speaker and the presenter, and they arrive, and then the person says to them, "Hi guys, thanks very much. Let's just let our speaker come on." And then they go like this. They say, "Cool, hi guys. Okay, I just want to share my screen. Can I have permission to share screen, please? Let me just see what's going on. Thank you. Okay, can everybody see my slides? Thank you very much. Okay, do this. Hi guys, can everybody see my slides? Thank you." First of all, you never want to share full screen slides ever. And I'll tell you why, because if you share full screen slides, you're sharing high resolution images over the internet. You want to share a small percentage of your slides. Me, I want to make it easier. When I'm sharing my slides, I want it to be easy. When I'm ready to go, I have everything set up. So when I'm ready to start presenting and I want to share my slides, it should be easy. It should be like this. And my slides should appear, and they can, and I want to show you how to do that. It turns out, for those of you that don't know, Zoom has some amazing capabilities. And let me just see, I see we've got some stuff coming up in the chat here. What was rule 2? Win them back. Thank you very much, Sandra. Good job. So rule number 3, good sharing is caring. In your sharing menu, when you go sharing, look where I'm pointing there. Most of us see sharing as that image. But actually, if you look next to basic, there's a button there that says advanced. Now, if you go to advanced tab, you'll actually see 4 things. So you'll see share your screen as a background. This is, you can actually make your presentation work as a background where you are in a green screen. It's kind of cool, but it's not strictly necessary. I don't think you really need it to present that way. But let me just go back to a little bit. There we go. But what I want you to focus on is this portion of screen. Now, when you click on portion of screen, what happens is this. So a little green block will appear, and I open my screen just in this view, or in the slide presenter view if you prefer that, and I drag it up just into the top corner of my screen. So what you're seeing me share is a relatively, I mean, I say low resolution, but we're talking 1024 by 768 kind of resolution image, rather than this by thousands image, which we've all seen when people do transitions, they're terrible. So now I do this, and I line up that block. Then what happens, now, by the way, I do this in my own Zoom room before I joined this call. I checked that everything worked okay, made sure it was set up, and then I quit. I quit that Zoom room. I came into this call, and Zoom remembers your settings. So then when I was, Rebecca did my introduction, I was ready to go. I had this image open. So I'd gone share screen onto advanced, and my finger was hovering over the share button. So as soon as Rebecca said, or as soon as I was ready to share my screen, I just started speaking. I said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Boom. And then what happened is it clicks like this. And that appears that way. And now I'm able to see my slides. Now, this is great, by the way, if any of you are ever pitching to a client and you have to present a document, it doesn't just work for slides. If you had a PDF, you can now share the PDF, but you can just drag around the area of the PDF and not have to worry about sharing that whole light gray, because again, just so you can see what I'm seeing now, I can drag this further and then there's my slide. And by the way, you can move things and your audience doesn't see that you're moving, but then when you pause, then they do. So I can always see what my next slide is coming up. And this is critical. And that's the most important thing. If I'm training you as a presenter, okay, that was a rookie error. If I'm training you as a presenter, I'll always teach you the same thing. Let me just grab this little green block again. And the most important thing I can tell you is this, that the difference between a good presenter and a great presenter is your ability to segue. My worst thing in a speaker or a presenter is this. Okay, guys, so that's how you set up your screen to share your slides. Now, the difference between a good presenter and a bad presenter is your ability to segue. Or, even worse, when they're on a big stage and they're looking back there and then they come back and they turn around. Your slides must follow you. You don't follow your slides. So you have to know what's coming next. It's the single most important thing. As a speaker, I always say, set up my tech writer that I want to see my own laptop, or if there's a monitor, I want to see my next slide. I don't need to see my current slide. I can see my current slide up there or in front of me. I need to know where I am going. That allows me to lead into content. So for example, because now what's quite cool is I can decide to maybe use this point here as a segue in this regard to a whole other way of presenting. So let me just go and unshare my screen here and go to this. And now I can say, well, hey, maybe I can use this as a sort of segue into how I'm presenting. So maybe there's a better way to present. You don't just have to share screen using the Zoom method. Maybe I can share it this way. So now all of a sudden, if you're in speaker view, now I've got my slides built up right up here. I can use these slides. I can interact with them in a very different way. I can bring it up. I can make it easy. And now I've got a nice, easy tool for sharing presentations that actually doesn't need a green screen. It doesn't need anything fancy. This could not be easier. That is the same PowerPoint file, and it took less than 5 minutes to set this up. And I'll show you how in a second. This is using a tool called Prezi Video. I will include a link for you later, but let me actually just give you this right now so you have it. And I should have set this up as a hotkey. I apologize, but there we go. So you can use Prezi. You download Prezi Video, and in fact, I think that one is like an affiliate thing, so it gives you 30 days anyway. You just go and you import there's two tools, by the way. There's Prezi, the fancy one, which I sometimes use, but for the most part, I just use Prezi Video, where you just import your PowerPoint file and it appears like this. If I push the 1 key, so if I'm on my button, I push the 1 key, that happens. If I push the 2 key, that happens. If I push the 3 key, that happens. And what's pretty cool as well is I've mapped those buttons to my Logitech Spotlight. So now what happens is I can actually use this and hold my Logitech button in, and now I can pull that up like that, or I can hold my normal button there, and it allows me to go through this content. Now, speaking of segues, I want to show you another way that you can share your screen. This, if you're presenting in Microsoft Teams, where you can't do that Zoom share that I just showed you, you can use this method. In PowerPoint, when you hit full screen, if you go F5, it will go full screen mode. But if you hit Alt F5, then what's cool is it actually gives you a whole second thing you can do, which gives you this screen mode, but then it also gives you your presenter view. That presenter view only you can see. Your audience can't see it. So it opens up in full screen mode, but then it gives you your presenter view. Then what happens is you just make that full screen and you're looking at that, and you don't even worry about the screen show mode. It's just running behind you. So what you see is this. This is what I would be looking at in a Zoom meeting. Now, I can now see my next slide. I can see my controls. I can see my content. But of course, my audience only just sees that. You have nowhere else to hide. I just want you to observe one little thing, because Zoom doesn't do this by default. You see where I put myself? Where I'm pointing to is my camera. So I'm not pointing to where my camera is up there. I move when I start speaking. The first thing I did, and if you look at the recording, you'll see I drag, because as soon as you share screen, and Zoom drops everybody down to there. I drag them to the top of my screen because I want to be looking at my camera. If I put them where Zoom put them, I'd be looking down here or over there and not looking at my audience. And I don't know if any of you have been at an event where that happens, but it's very, very disconcerting. You spend all your time looking around, and the speaker is spending all their time talking over there, looking at themselves in that image, thinking they're delivering a great presentation because they're looking directly at themselves, but they're not. So you want to make sure you move your little screen up to where the camera is so you're engaging there. Now, there's another thing you have to watch, and this is very, very important when you're presenting, and that is this. You've got to watch the clock. And I want to explain to you why that's so important. So this event, if I'm not mistaken right now, is it, if I'm not mistaken, is it 10:34 over there? Is that correct? I think so, just showing roughly 10:34. So this event was scheduled from 10 to 11. Now, I want to ask you something quickly, and we're going to, if you wouldn't mind, we're going to pop up the last poll. Come 11 o'clock. I'm curious, do you have something better to do? Do you have something else to do? So when this talk ends, do you have another meeting, or are you like chilled and just like happy to hang out, bro? What's the deal here? So where are we at? Okay. 75, 80%. There we go. We've got nearly. Okay, cool. That's perfect. 48 of 55, 87% have voted. We can share that. So 75% of you have somewhere else to be. Let me explain to you why this matters more now than it ever mattered before. Because in an in-person event, if that first asshole speaker goes 5 minutes over their allotted time, it's okay because you catch up by the end of the day. The final speaker still gets to build their big ending, and all it means is you may cut down the cocktails after the event a little bit less. Now, that's not the case. If the first speaker in the beginning of a 2-hour online event goes 5 minutes over, that is stealing 5 minutes from the last speaker. There's a thing in speaking we call the peroration. A PER oration. And it's that bit, and you'll know the speakers do it when we're getting close to the end, we start speaking faster, and we will build you up, and we will say that this is an opportunity that you should go for and you should be taking it, blah, 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 and build you up to the end. And speakers are working on the big bit. And when we talk, our action framework for presenting has give them a reason to care, give them a reason to believe, tell them what they need to know, then tell them what they need to do. My big call to action is at the end of my presentation. If you've gone, I've lost it. We need as speakers to be absolutely on time. Therefore, we need to be monitoring our time all the time. Oh, sorry, I'm not sure if these were shared, but you can see here, there we go, there's that. I think they were, thank you. So that means the rules have changed. I've been using an in-person presenting for a while, this little device here, it's called a time cube. Now, what they've done is they've now come up with an online version that you can use. If you go to timecube.com/online, if you're running a meeting in your team, or you've got an internal meeting where a whole bunch of people are presenting or brainstorming or anything like this, what we do is we run the time cube, and you set every speaker's time beforehand. And when it's their turn to speak, this thing just appears on their screen, somewhere on their screen, and they can drag it and move it around, and it's green. And then when they get halfway through, it goes orange. When they've got 5 minutes left, it goes red, and you can preset this. And then if they carry on speaking, it starts flashing. They know they've got to get off stage. If they still carry on, and you can actually send a little noise like, ah, and force them off the stage. You have to be so hardcore on time. Now, you can use Time Cube to control it. More importantly, though, just do what I've done and have a little clock that you're running the whole time and monitor your own time. You have to know when to get off stage, and you have to be off stage then. And let me tell you why this is important in any time. Your audience has a gas tank, right? Every single audience in the world has a gas tank, a give a shit tank. And when you get on stage, they don't. And, you know, at some point, if you've done your job well at the beginning of your presentation, they will start to care. And you've bought their attention. Here's the thing. If that tank runs empty 1 minute before you get off stage, your audience are like, oh, that guy went on forever. Like, yeah, just wish he'd shut up. But if that tank is still got a little bit in it and you get off stage a little bit early, your audience are like, wow, I could listen to that person forever. So much energy, so much there. That was incredible. You've got to time it right. You got to watch your time. If you're given 10 minutes, prepare 8. If you're given half an hour, prepare 25. And the other reason is you want to leave time for questions, especially in sales. If you're given a pitch presentation ever in your life and your client gives you an hour, you want to use 1/3 of that time. That means in online meetings, your pitch is now 10 minutes. We call it 10 minutes to win it. Because when you're talking, you're selling. When they're asking, they're buying. You want to move from a selling to a buying conversation as quickly as possible. For those of you in sales, you need to figure that out. That's critically, critically important. And this brings me to the final thing, and that is this. You have to respect their attention. You really, and I guess as part of that time. Now, there's a number of ways you can do that. The one thing I just want to say to you, though, and maybe if there's one tip I could give you there about respecting attention, of course, it would be the time. But the other one would be this. Stand and deliver. Get on your feet. I am sick to death of seeing people deliver presentations on their bum. In my career, I've never stood up. I've never gone onto a stage. Hi there, here's your guest speaker all the way from South Africa. Pull up a chair and sit down. But I was on the Zoom call the other day. It was actually an EO event. And it was like our end year event. So that gives you the date. It's around about July, or a New Year event. And a stand-up comedian came on and he was on the Zoom call and, hey, everybody. And he was sitting there like this. And you can see, like, just doesn't own the screen, was leaning forward like this. And his opening line was this. Hey, I've spent the last 20 years of my career being a stand-up comedian, but I've spent the last 6 months being a sit-down comedian. Why? Does literally moving your camera, tilting your camera, is it too much of an effort? When you want to present, stand up. And I'll tell you why, because you're letting your body know. This is Kevin, our head of academy. You're letting your body know that you're delivering. I mean, you've got to feel different when you're presenting. You've got to let your brain and your body know that you're here to present. Right? I cannot deliver this level of energy that I have, that I enjoy delivering, if I'm sitting, because then I'm relaxed. But now it seems to be totally normal that you turn up and you present, you just share your screen and you sit there. The other thing, by the way, and this is, we call it the top knot, when you're presenting, you want to make sure that you have just a top knot's length above your head. If you have led too much, then you're maybe speaking down at your audience, and occasionally, if I want to make a point, I will do that. But if you're standing presenting like this, you lack the authority you're delivering. This is not a good look for you trying to make that big deal. So you want to find out and own your stage. This is my stage, and you want to stand and do that. Then I want you to think about it this way. Your audience is paying, even for these events. You have paid me today a privilege, and you have paid me with your attention, for which you want a return on attention. Now me, I made a huge effort. I made a lot. I sat there going through my content, my slides. I wanted to figure out what I would give to you. I'd worked on another bit of material for earlier on today that I presented there. Me, I want a return on effort, an ROE. The following equation is every single event you will go to from here on out, and that is this. Let me actually make it bigger. Your effort plus their attention equals everyone's ROI. That's how you get an ROI in events. You make a bloody effort. If you make an effort, they will pay you with attention. And if they pay your effort with an attention, every single person in the room gets an ROI. But it's not enough just to know this stuff. This is probably my favorite quote of all time, and I actually have no idea who originally said it. I attribute it to Bruce Lee just for fun, because I want to see if I can make it a thing. But it's this. If action followed knowledge, we would all have six-packs. Every single person right now has exactly the knowledge it takes. They know it's in there, what it takes to have a six-pack. But here I am. I got a keg, right? Like, I'm not in the shape I would be, but I will say this, mark my words, I just turned 46 2 weeks ago. I am going to be six-pack by 50. That is it. I'm going to hit the 50s ripped. I'm going to be shredded. So you can send me a note 4 years from now, and I will send you a picture of my abs. We will get spoons, and you can play that shit. You're going to be able to play like a song on those bad boys. If action followed knowledge, we'd all have six packs. So there's work to be done. I've included here a link to a bunch of resources that you can utilize. Presentation tools I've followed. You can either scan that thing with your phone if you like. It's a little QR code. In fact, all of a sudden, QR codes have a reason for being. In online events, this is a great reason and a great way to share QR codes. They finally have a purpose. I've actually included a link on this website to where you can go to get that thing, as well as a bunch of other resources you can get too. Here's what I'm asking you. I'm asking you to decide to do this. I'm asking you to try and show up and actually deliver a presentation in a different way. Embrace the idea that this could be better. So to sum up, I want to share with you these little tips again. The 5 online presentation pro tips that I want you to remember. Tip number 1, give them permission to engage. Let your audience know they're not passive participants, they have a voice. Tip number 2, interrupt their distraction. They are not your audience. They are living, breathing human beings, and you have lost them. Win them back. Tip number 3, good sharing is caring. Be a professional. Show up like you know what is going on. Tip number 4, watch the clock. And if you do that, you will lead perfectly into tip number 5, which is to respect their attention. The one last bonus tip I want to give you is this, and this is the golden rule of all presenting ever for the rest of your life. Throughout my career, have worked with people who are presenting, salespeople, and they'll say things like, oh, I've delivered this sales deck so many times, I'm so bored. If you're bored, your audience does not have a chance, right? If you cannot learn to enjoy presenting, that is a serious problem. Because probably the most important rule I can give you about presenting at all is this one, is your audience cannot enjoy receiving a presentation more than you enjoy delivering it. You better figure out a way to fall in love with your content, to fall in love with your delivery, and to enjoy standing up. And if you do that, your audience is out there. By the way, see what I'm doing here? Peroration. Build, 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 build. If you do that, if you can go out there and find something that you're passionate about and find the energy to want to talk about that, then your audience is waiting to be activated. They're waiting to be changed. And luckily, very few people give enough shits about this discipline to do it. So the opportunity is yours. Take it. Your access to audience has never been better. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very, very much for your time and attention. I am now going to give myself a hat. Are there any questions? I'm happy to, in fact, I'm going to give myself a, there we go. Thank you. Stop it. Thank you. It's too much. No, I don't have eyes. Stop it. Oh, I'm so embarrassed. Any questions from anybody about presenting in general? Anything? Jeff, thank you. Adamant deserves to be in every single presentation all the world over. Thank you very much. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you, Dahlia. Any questions about presenting at all? There are no silly questions. This stuff is tricky. I can present from here, or maybe I should be in TV. If there's any questions at all, I flash the QR code again. I can do that for you. Let's go back to here, bum, bum, bum. And in fact, what I'll do as well is I'll just put it, I've linked that to Notion. It's just a Notion page, sorry. So there we go, bum, there you go. I'm gonna share that there. There's your QR code. If you do want to, you're welcome to click on that. And I will type this in the chat quickly. By the way, one other little thing, we use a tool called Rebrandly. I realized when I was presenting online, it was really tricky to constantly give people to remember all the URLs of all the services we share out. So we use a tool called Rebrandly to make this msng.wtf link. By the way, you can get your company name .wtf, which everyone should own. I didn't even know that was a thing. And then you can put that there and add in just words you want to remember. Source resources, there we go. I think that should make it easy for you. And I've included links to Presley, I've included links to QR Code Monkey and tools like that for you there. If there are no more questions, I know we have 13 minutes. I'm happy to stand here awkwardly staring at you until somebody asks me a question.
Rich,
If I
we
unmute
had
myself, we answer a question live.
Yeah, totally.
So that's actually my question. I see a lot of presentations like this where everything flows through chat. What do you do with wanting to create real engagement verbally, either in small groups or in any place you want to get people to actually talk and be heard?
So opening an audience is always difficult until somebody else does it. What we should have done in retrospect, what I wish I had done, and this is actually a rookie mistake, I really should have done it. In fact, usually on my tech writer that I send out, it has this, is I ask you to ask the first 2 or 3 questions. So I give you the first 2 or 3 questions because nobody wants to put their hand up first. In fact, one of the things, and I'll say this to you, audiences don't like to step out from audiences. Audience don't ever want to be separate. This is an unasked for tip. When you're polling an audience, when you're asking them a question, don't ever ask. The rookie mistake is asking for the question for the answer that you want. So guys, a quick show of hands here. Who has done something? Who has an idea that will make them a millionaire? Nobody will put up their hand. People don't want to do that. But if I turn around and ask the same question, but in reverse, quick show of hands, who here has not had $1 million idea in the last 6 months? 100% of this audience has had $1 million idea in the last 6 months. So understand that your audience don't want to step out of being audience. So you have to be patient. And the easiest way to do that is to give your audience permission to engage by having the first 2 or 3 questions pre-planted so that we get the rhythm going. Then when people start engaging, you can get them highly engaged. And of course, they're using then breakaway rooms, which separate them from the speaker, which then makes them feel like they're in a comfortable space. Works very, very well. You know, most of our large events we're running, we will use breakaway rooms throughout the day. There's a great tool called Hopin. I don't know if you guys know Hopin. Again, I can't remember what it is, Hopin something, but I think it's also HTTP:// But they actually have these really cool exhibition rooms as well that you can go to. So if you're hosting an event, they have these like weird expo rooms so you can break away to and have micro engagement. And then they got this rad thing, which is a speed dating. So let's say it was an EO event, we could do a speed networking. And what happens is it throws 2 people into a room for 1 minute or 2 minutes, you decide. You pose a question in the room. So both people answer that question in 30 seconds. And at the end of the room, when they leave, it says, do you want to stay connected? And it's kind of like Tinder in that if both of you hit yes, then it shares your contact details with each other. But if only one of you says yes, then they leave it as is. And you can also group it, which is pretty cool. We found is you can group the list into buyers and sellers, or mentors and mentees, or members and non-members. So you can create networking where everybody who's a member will meet everybody who's not a member. For example, in an EO membership group where you can host that. It's incredible. That's on Hopin. They do that really, really well. My wife is against me speed dating. You know, Todd, I hear you. I'm also absolutely petrified of my wife. So it's not even that she's against it insofar as that she will kill me. So there is that. Any other questions that we have? I think there might have been one more. Does your company work on the content of the presentation when you work with the presenter? Absolutely. So you write a good talk long before you design it, long before you deliver it. I've seen horrifically bad speakers, technically bad speakers, deliver presentations that you're hanging on to every word because they've structured it well. In fact, a great example of that is my countryman, Elon Musk. He went to the same schools I did, the same high schools I did. He's a terrible presenter in theory, except when he presents, you stay listening because he follows what we refer to as the action framework. Give them a reason to care, give them a reason to believe, tell them what they need to know, and then tell them what they need to do. He follows that framework exactly. He comes across like an amateur, but his writing of his presentation is so dialed in. I always believe that you earn your applause before you open PowerPoint. When you're in the writing and structuring phase, that's where you earn your applause. If you open PowerPoint too early and you've not earned your applause before you open your slide tool, then you're not going to get an applause when you do open it for the audience. You have to be mindful of what you're doing first. You write a good talk before you design it, before you deliver it. Happy to do any other questions. Rebecca, were you going to say one, or was it just to point me to that question there?
It was to point you to that one.
Thank you very much.
We
Online
have one
marketing.
last one in the chat.
Cool. Any ideas on how to approach 10 audience that can engage in this scenario? So we're launching online marketing centric courses later this month. Will you be, Krista, when you're presenting, will you be launching it on are you using a webinar to launch? Is that how you're doing it, or?
Yes, yeah. So the reason I asked the question is because they will be on demand versus live. And so I was trying to get a sense of, you know, how to kind of create that same level of energy and engagement when somebody's going to be watching it at their own time, as opposed to truly in a live kind of interactive state.
So the standard operating procedure here, and I feel a little bit dirty when I recommend this to you, but is to act like they're live anyway. Pretend you're having a conversation. You'll have been up to all these webinars. All of you have been on one where the speaker is saying, hey, everyone, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. Okay, we've got some questions here coming in from Catherine in Austin. Amazing. Thank you so much, Catherine. You see that? Can we see some waves? And they're saying all of these people's names, and you're sitting there looking around, and you're like, where the bloody hell are, who's all these people? Am I not live? Am I the only one not live? Why can I not see this? But they talk and engage. Guys, feel free to leave your chats down here in the comments. What have we got here? We got it going on. Okay, Travis has said that blah, blah, blah. This was a lot. Will we have access to the recording? And you're looking and thinking, where is this bloody Travis guy? And yes, Travis, there is a lot, and you will have access to the recording. But speak to people as if they're there. The other thing you can use is to turn around and say, if you have any questions, because you may be watching this as a recording, we have a Slack channel or a Facebook group that you can jump into right now, and I'm constantly monitoring that. So when I do see chats, I get a pop-up. So if you have a question during it, feel free to jump in. And even if you're not there right on time, they'll engage with you there in another group, and that gives you another option to engage with them afterwards. Another cool tool for engagement, and I just want to, I don't know if any of you have heard of this. So we've not launched this ourselves just yet, but do any of you ever use Typeform for sending out polls? I'm going to share a link. Have you heard of Video Ask at all? I am blown away by this for engagement. So we have a program where we work, a mentoring program for public speakers, and we work with, it's called Story to Stage. I may as well put a link to that as well, storytostage.co. But I want to use this Video Ask for launching this. This is a system like yours, Krista. So it's Q&A, like imagine a Typeform poll questions, but each one of the questions is asked by you on video. So you're saying, hey, it's Richard here. It's really, really excited to be here. I want to ask you a question. Do you like this or this? And if they say X, they go to the next video, but it's a choose your own adventure video series. We want to use this for sales on our website because we want to actually try and help people. We're doing a series now, which is which online platform is best for your event. So Keegan, our head of Cloud Crew, our online eventing division, will ask you, hey, so are you doing this kind of event or that kind of event? You answer, and it goes to the next video. And by the end of it, he says to you, right, so the event platform you need is this one, all driven by video, and he's never been there. Video Ask, it looks amazing. Check out the case studies they've done. I think it's super cool because nobody's using it yet. I've not seen it being used by a human being yet. So it's still early enough for us to deploy it in our business. And then Jen, you asked a question very quickly. You went to school with Elon. I did not, but I went to the same school as him. He left and then moved overseas, and then I was expelled. But you know, other than that, I mean, who would have thought? Who would expel me? I don't understand. I was such a good student. I may, and I'm not admitting to this, but I may have snuck a beer into school, which is ironic because I stopped drinking when I was 19. So I haven't had a drink since then. I basically got my drinking years out of me during my final exams at school. So that was that. I am 3 minutes away from disrespecting your time. If there's any last questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Otherwise, I'll let you go in a second. If you do want to connect with me on line, you can go to here and ask me questions on LinkedIn if you prefer to do it in a more intimate setting, and I'll give you any answers. And I'll share any resources with you we have. So you're welcome to go and connect there. Griff, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you very much. And everybody, I'm going to give you an extra 3 minutes because we all know that we need to run and have a pee before the next call that I now know you have at 11. So off you go, go forth and conquer, go have the best pee of your life. I will look forward to seeing you when we have GLC. Those of you in EO in 2022, I think is going to be back in Cape Town. Those of you who have a motorcycle, sign up. I am going to be hosting a ride and we're all going to go run the mountain passes. For the rest of you, just come and say hi. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it. Off you go. Bye.
Thanks so much,
Rich.
Rich. That was awesome.
Good stuff, man.
Pleasure, guys. Ninja bomb. No.